Talk Speedway. Talk Speedway.
Hello and welcome to the Talk Speedway podcast, the new and improved. What a way to start the 2017 season. The new and upgraded podcast will feature new host Graham Munsey and of course an old foe in my days broadcasting is Paul Griffiths. He doesn't actually join us in this podcast, but one name that does join us in this podcast, and we're delighted for him to join us, is 4 times World Champion Greg Hancock, who we'll hear from later on in the show. But all it's left for me to welcome is Graham Munsey. Graham, thanks very much. A new era in podcast material history. Me and thee on the Talk Speedway podcast.
That's it. Thanks very much for having me, Scott. I'm delighted to be here. Really just doing what I do best, talking nonsense about Speedway.
Yep. Well, join the club. Me and Griff were experts in that back in the day. As I say, I'm absolutely delighted to be back doing podcasts. It's something that I actually love doing, love being involved with, and obviously it lets me talk a lot of nonsense about Speedway as well. This podcast, obviously, we speak to 4 times World Champion, as I said, Greg Hancock. Graham, he ended the season in a kind of sour note, like on the sidelines really. Wasn't quite like him, but there was lots of positives to come for the GP, the 2017 GP series. None more so than World Champion Jason Doyle. I think it's fair to say that probably in the history of Speedway you won't find many that have deserved it more than Jason, for consistency over the last 2 seasons, and of course the way he went about it this year, breaking his foot, still riding on. He was heroic in his quest for that World Championship title. Graham, sometimes you need to look at it as you might only get one shot at that title, and he certainly grabbed it with both hands.
You're absolutely right, Scott. Obviously, I've been following Speedway since before the Grand Prix started, and I can struggle to think of a more popular winner as well. He's one of the good guys of the sport, Doyle. You mentioned there he came back. He probably had it in the bag last year before that injury at Torrin. It was a serious injury. Did well to get himself back, and for me, it was the level of consistency shown during the season. I don't have the stats in front of me, but from memory, there was one, maximum maybe 2 finals that he missed, and what a way to go out! Home Grand Prix in Australia. The job was almost done, but not quite. Was there any doubt? So he goes out and wins his first 2 heats, gets the crown, and romps to victory on the night in front of delighted home fans. You can't do much better than that.
I think as well, from memory, just watching the last Grand Prix, I think he made a record number of finals, record number of GP wins in a season. From stats, I've only got one in front of me. He only failed to score double figures once, and that was in round 7 in Marilla. It's just quite incredible. It's incredible consistency. Just briefly though, Graham, Patrick Dudek was right in there until the last Grand Prix, although it probably wasn't realistic that he was going to win it. He was still in with a mathematical shout at actually getting there. Does that just go to show what a season he had in his rookie year? Yeah,
I mean, again, for a guy coming in, we all know the talent he had. He'd had, some issues in the past. From memory, there was a drug ban or a drinks ban in there at one point. But he seems to have turned that career around. And what a fast, exciting rider he is. For me, it'll be interesting to see if he can kick on into 2018. Obviously, I'm sure nearer the time we'll talk about that in preview, but there's been a lot of polls. I think Smarslick just last year bounced onto the scene, then probably took a step backward this year. So I actually think it's going to be real interesting to see if he can keep that drive going and make that next step next year. But what a talent. And of course, from a British point of view, he did that job we needed for that top 8 place, and it gets our very own Craig Cook into the Grand Prix next year as well.
You mentioned polls that do that. I mean, Peter Pawlicki, he was one that dropped out this year. Polls that burst onto the scene, of course, former World Under-21 champion. We're going to speak about guys that have dropped out of the GPs later on in the show, and of course we'll actually talk about the wild cards and of course riders like Craig Cook that are going to come in to the GP series. But just to pick up on one point, a guy that came back into the GP series after a couple of seasons away was Emil Sayfutinov. Just looking over his scores, did some research before we come on, Graham. You've got to act a wee bit professional, I suppose, ever present. Of course, there was only one rider that finished in the top 8 who wasn't an ever present, and that was Freddie Lindgren, who managed to scrape a top 8 place despite missing the last 2 Grand Prix of the series. But Sayfutinov, if I had to tell you how many semi-finals he made this season, would you believe me, Graham, when I tell you it's 9 out of 12?
See, not to have a go at your research here, Scott, but actually they did mention that on the broadcast of the last Grand Prix. So I maybe need to give some props to our good friends Nigel Pearson and Kelvin Tatum on that one. That it was
and
it was
Steve
unbelievable.
Brandon, I'm sure you're getting fed the information. The Talk Thumb's a friend of the show.
Yeah, I mean, Emma, obviously you mentioned that a couple of years out, and everyone remembers how much a hard charger he was when he first burst into the scene. You know, he was frightening the way he used to chase those back wheels, and some of the moves he pulled off were out of this world. You know, a couple of years out, as he maybe mellowed, as he's grown older a little bit, I think I don't know Emma in any way, shape or form, but looking at his season, I think he might be a little bit disappointed. I think there was another stat they mentioned that he was actually the second top point scorer, I believe, before the semi-final.
Right.
And if you think to not be able to turn those semi-finals into finals and get those big points, so that makes a big difference. So if you're going into a semi-final alongside, say, a Jason Doyle with 10 or 11, and then Doyle puts an extra 4 or 5 points on, then that's a big difference over the course of, an 11 Grand Prix series. Yep. And I just think he maybe was just lacking that little cutting edge. And maybe it came with being out at that top level for a couple of years when it got to the sort of nitty-gritty, the business end of the meetings, as you were, semi-finals, finals. And again, he's another one that I actually think he's got a little bit more in his locker. And next year we could see him right back up there. And if you're asking me for a wee outside tip,
would you say that was like a kind of a bedding back in kind of year for him to get back in there? I think he mentioned after Australia that he was delighted to be another present, get through the season without any injuries. I mean, you say the one final, he only made one final from the 9 semi-finals, as you mentioned, which again is quite incredible. To kind of work yourself into that position, a rider of his quality, to get himself into that position and not quite make the jump into the final. The one final he did make, of course, was in Denmark in round 5, where he came second. I mean, you mentioned there, it's that jump at that elite level, but the fact he's getting himself into these positions, you maybe, even although he's not been at the top table, so to speak, for a couple of years, you would still have expected somebody, the rider of his quality, to kind of maybe snatch a couple of more final places.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have thought that the simple law averages, you know, if you're in 9 semi-finals, more than once you would have expected Saifutinov to come in the top 2. In a semi-final, you know, just out the volume of semi-finals he was in. And you're right, I mean, I think, you know, the reason he stepped down wasn't because of some sponsorship pressures he had to ride in various other competitions. So whether maybe there's been some sponsorship issues and he's not got the same backing that he had previously, and that'll come now that he's showing that he's still at that level and he's back in the Grand Prix series, now going into his second year. I really think he'll be one to watch next year.
Yeah, of course. Saifutinov finished in 6th place, a good bit clear of the 18 points clear in 9th place, so he was fairly comfortable in qualifying in that top 8 as well. But of course we've got to look at our own Ty Whiffenden. Ty finishing 3rd place in the standings, 30 points behind Jason Doyle. It was a steady year for Ty, if not spectacular.
It was. You know, he very quietly went about his business this year, Ty, and walks away with a bronze medal, which, you know, in a field of, take away wild cards and guest injury replacements and stuff, 15 consistent riders, that means there's 12 other riders. It would have taken Ty's final position. He looked, sort of mid-season, he had a couple of Grand Prix where he looked like he was going to make a charge. It looked like he was on it and everything was going. He had a slow start to the season. I think I read somebody put that down to maybe a lack of meetings. Obviously, the various choices he made for what leagues and stuff he rides in. But yeah, it just didn't seem to kick on again in that middle space. He had a couple of Grand Prix. I think he had a 2nd and a 3rd or a 1st and a 2nd. There was a couple of podiums back to back, and you thought, right, this is Ty's time. He's a 2-time world champion. This is where he's going to kick on. He looked to be showing the speed, and then for whatever reason, there just seemed to be that little bit missing. But again, as I've mentioned, you're 3rd place and another world championship medal and rostrum position. It's a season that, you know, only 2 other Speedway riders in the world, I guess, wouldn't accept.
Of course. The thing is, as well, it's a big year for him, again, away from the track. All these kind of factors get added in. Riders, human beings thinkings, never mind riders thinkings. Of course, his partner's just about to have a baby. I don't know if she's had it or whatever by the time we're recording this, but it's a big year in that aspect. There's a lot to think about away from the track. Again, it's probably, as you say, when you look at he won, and I think it was Gorzov. And then I think the next Grand Prix in Germany, he scored 5 points, and then round 10 in Stockholm was 6 points. So really the good work done in Gorzhov to maybe kick on. He kind of lost his momentum slightly, but again, I think personally, top 3 finish in the medal positions, I think it's a good year for Ty, and it keeps him involved in the mix of the elite level riders right at the top. I mean, if you're looking ahead to next year, probably Doyle would be the outright favourite again. But looking below that, guys like Dudek, Whiffenden, they're the main rival to Jason Doyle.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very good point you made there, Scott. And it's one thing I'm probably guilty of forgetting as well, is that these guys aren't machines. You know, they're human beings. And if from memory, was it not the start of the season, he's building a new house and it got broken into. You know, and what worries at that, when you're an international speedway rider and you're away from home 4 or 5 days a week and you've got a pregnant fiance at home, you know, and the house has been broken into, you know, we won't go into that, it's not speedway related, but, you know, that must affect your performances, you know, that worry and that, you know, just taking that mind off your job, as it were, a little bit would make the difference. But, yeah, I mean, I think we said at the start of this season, everyone thought this was probably the most competitive lineup the Grand Prix have ever had. You know, from top to bottom, there was no one really you would have been surprised if they made a final or won a Grand Prix. So to get out of that with a third place finish and still in that top echelon of riders, you know, I think he's worst. Is it the last 5 years? It's 2 wins, a second, a third, and a fourth.
Yep.
You know, that's some going. That's consistent and shows he deserves to be spoken about as one of the greats.
Just to recap over the 8 riders who finished in those positions for automatic qualification into next year's series. Obviously Doyle, top of the world up there at number 1, then Patrick Dudek, Whiffenden make up the rostrum places. Maciej Janowski finished 4th in the standings. Countryman Bartosz Smarslik finished 5th with Seifutinov 6th. Matty Jagar in at 7, and as we mentioned previously, Freddie Lindgren holding that 8th and final spot for next year's Grand Prix series. Just to touch on briefly, riders who'll be leaving the Grand Prix series is Danish champion, controversially in some eyes, Niels Christian Iversen. We'll speak about that in a second when we're talking about the wildcards. Graham, Peter Pawlicki, Antonio Lindback and Peter Kilderman, who of course replaced, I think it was Nicky Pedersen in the Grand Prix series in 2017 when he picked up an injury. Graham, going to talk about the wildcards here before we catch up with Greg. We'll catch on the other. Greg obviously got his wildcard spot after finishing in 14th spot in the standings. He only raced in 6 Grand Prix this year. But alongside him, Nicky Pedersen, Martin Vaculik, who finished in 9th spot, 8 behind Freddie Lindgren, and Chris Holder, who I think occupied, if you hold on with me, the 10th spot in the standings. He finished, I think it was 22 points behind 8th place. We're going to talk about the merits, obviously, the guys that got the wild cards, and of course guys like Iversen, Pawlicki, Lindback and Kilderman who missed out. They would probably be the riders that have been omitted, that would have been in with the biggest call of getting one, so to speak. Bit of controversy really over Iversen not getting one, Graham. Perhaps Nicky Pedersen in ahead of him. As we're going to hear from Hancock in a little while, does Pedersen in some ways, because of the service and commitment and what he's actually done for the Grand Prix over the years, does he actually deserve this kind of, I don't know, saving grace, so to speak?
It's for me, it's a tough one. I think that's a commercial decision.
Yep.
If I'm being honest, you know, on track, Iversen, they both had injuries. Iversen was outperforming Pedersen when Pedersen went out. Then Iversen obviously got his injury later on in the season. Iversen, Danish champion again this year. You know, across the leagues, I think he was scoring higher. I don't have a problem with somebody like Hancock or Holder, obviously we'll speak about them later, or even Pedersen, getting one wild card because of the service they've given. You mentioned that does stand for something, and these guys have been champions, and things can happen, and for whatever reason they miss out on a year and they get back in. But from memory, wasn't Pedersen a wild card going into this year? So of course he only had the 6 Grand Prix before he got injured. He wasn't in the top 8 when he got injured. Mm-hmm. He wasn't showing that he was at that level. You know, you know, I'm a sports addict. I watch a lot of sports. I listen to a lot of sports radio. There's only one thing that's ever undefeated in sport, and that's time. You know, if there's one thing that's going to catch up with you in the end, it's Father Time. Greg Hancock seems to be working against that just now.
Yep.
But, Nicky's into his 40s now as well. He's had a lot of bad injuries in his career. And I just wonder, from a competitive point of view, is he on the same level?
I must admit, I'm quite shocked that he's actually going to race next year full stop, never mind the Grand Prix. I thought, I must admit, I expected by the time of the season ended to hear something from Nicky that would have been along the lines of, it's been a fantastic career, but injuries have caught up with him. I mean, he has had a lot of injuries, and I'm not particularly sure that Nicky's at the level of these guys. Now, you mentioned about Everson there. I mean, Everson's record in the Grand Prix series this year wasn't the best. I mean, from his 7 Grand Prix that he rode this season, he didn't manage to break double figures. That goes on nothing. Niels Christian Everson is a rider that is more than capable of going out and winning any Grand Prix that he races in. Now, to ask you the question, Nicky Pedersen right now, as you've seen him before his injury, was he a rider that was capable of going out and still winning Grand Prix? That's the major question. I'm not saying he can. I'm not saying he can't. I'm asking you.
Thanks very much. If I'm being honest, I don't think he has it anymore. Not, as I mentioned there before, I just think those injuries got. I mean, we forget that was a broken neck he had last year. That's tough to come back from in any walk of life, let alone top level speedway. Would I have been shocked if he'd retired? Maybe going against what you said, I would have been a little bit, just because I think the nature and the competitiveness that Nicky's shown over his career, I don't think he would have wanted to go out that way. Mm-hmm. But do I think a final year, a farewell year, paring back his commitments outside of the Grand Prix, maybe with a wild card in the Danish one as a thank you for his service and a goodbye to the fans. You're riding a little bit more in Denmark, picking and choosing Poland and Sweden. That's kind of, I thought he might have went off. He's moved to Monaco now. He's got that lifestyle. I know he's got various business interests and stuff as well. I thought he was starting to look at that next stage of his career. But the fact that we've now spent the last 3 or 4 minutes talking about him shows that he's box office. You go to Cardiff, and there's the pantomime side of it, but there's 10 or 15,000 of the 40,000 in that stadium booing him. Mm-hmm. And he puts bums on seats. Love or hate, people like to talk about Nicky Pedersen.
Of course, just to move it on. Chris Holder, obviously former world champion, he got one of the shouts there for a wild card. What's your thoughts on Chris there?
Again, I don't so much mind him getting one. He's a former world champion. He's very popular.
But again, just to go to what you said about Nicky, is it a commercial decision to have Chris in?
I don't think it harms it that he's so popular, and obviously he's got ties to Britain. Obviously for the pool days, he's got ties to Monster Energy. As we'll hear from Greg and one of the parts of him, that things like that do matter, and things like that are being thought about at that level. But I also think on his day, he's still got it. Again, we won't talk about it too much. A lot of it was quite public. But he had a lot of off-track issues this year, and the last couple of years have been very difficult for Chris between the Darcy stuff and then other things going off track. So Chris is a rider I've enjoyed watching since the day he came over at the Isle of Wight. I remember him winning a was it I forget, was it the Welsh Open they called it, the meeting that used to be at Newport the day after Cardiff, one year, just hanging off the bike, going round outside of people. I think the final, he gated first, was riding that wide, he clipped the fence, went to the back, but kept it turned on and went round everyone in the next lap and a half again. And that's the Chris Holder that I like to remember. Again, a lot of injuries have taken its toll, but maybe it's a bias because he's a guy I like, but I'm quite happy that he's got a Grand Prix, and he's another one I'll be hoping does well next year.
I must admit, I'm the same. I actually like Chris Holder. I like him being involved in the Grand Prix. I think there's a slight fact to the commercial side of things because he's a Monster rider. The series is obviously sponsored by Monster Energy. There's got to be a certain amount of riders in there that have got are donning that cap, so to speak. But he's definitely a rider that I enjoy watching. I think perhaps we don't really see the best of him in British Speedway for whatever reason. I don't really want to go into the wheres and the why-fors about that, to be honest, but I think in the Grand Prix series he adds a lot to the series. And I asked you the question about Nicky, is he capable of winning Grand Prix? Chris Holder's more than capable of going out and winning Grand Prix. We did a poll before the Australian Grand Prix about who we thought would win. Somebody, I can't remember who sent us a message and said that Chris Holder's not an outsider and should be considered up there. At that point, Chris was an outsider when you look at his position in the standings to actually go out and win the Australian Grand Prix with so much in the line for Jason and stuff like that. He would have been an outsider to get he top the rostrum down there. But in saying that, again, probably contradicting myself there, he is more than capable of getting out. I think he adds a lot to the series. I agree again. I think he's had a lot to deal with, both personally with the Darcy stuff, again, family life and stuff. It all catches up. Yeah, everybody's got a life away from the track, but he's a good rider. And again, I would like to see him back in British Speedway next year. I know there's murmurs about him going back to Poole next season, and I would like to see that happen. I think that's his spiritual home within British Speedway. And fans shouldn't forget, there's a lot of people got on Chris's back, but fans shouldn't forget Chris Holders give a lot of commitment to British Speedway when other riders perhaps haven't. Even when the year he did want to duck out of British Speedway, I think he rode about half a season in British Speedway to help pull out. So he has shown a fair amount of commitment to British Speedway over the years. So he's a rider that I enjoy watching. And again, having spoken to him a couple of times myself in interviews and stuff, he's a really nice guy, and I actually hope he goes and seals probably a top 8 place next year and doesn't have taken a bank on a wild card spot. Martin Vakulik, Graham, he's a rider that's been in the British news over the last couple of weeks. Of course, we're going to see him in British Speedway in 2018, which I think is a fantastic move. We'll talk about that in a different podcast. With, of course, mentor Simon Stead, we'll hear from him on Martin joining the Leicester lines, but just to talk up his performance in the Grand Prix this year, perhaps unlucky not to make the top 8 in the end. He needed a good round down under, but eventually finished 8 points behind Freddie in the 8th place. I think Freddie deserved to be in the top 8, even though he missed the last couple of Grand Prix, but Martin was there in his coattail, and I think he deserves a place next year.
I think so. I would agree with that as well. I know they say the top 8 automatically qualify, but when was the last time 9th place didn't get a wild card as well? But I think it's an easy decision. He started off the season well. He won a Grand Prix, I think, if memory serves. He was certainly in the top 2 or 3 in the standings over the first couple of Grand Prix. Then it maybe fell away a little bit. But it was probably an easy decision. He came 9th. He's, being that he's Slovakian, there wasn't that worry about, okay, it's going to mean there's 5 for this country or there's 4 for this country, so it was easy for him to get in. Yeah. But, again, as a point I would make, when you look at the riders that aren't in it, are there any of them you would say are consistently better than Martin Vakulik? And I don't think there are, so that's why I think it's a good one. His move to the UK, I think, will be very interesting. It'll be great. He's a nice box office name. It's good to see names like that coming into the UK scene. But yeah, I'm happy enough with Vakulik being in there. He's another one that on his day, he's exciting to watch. He can gate well. He can pass. And let's not forget, we've actually probably got to give credit to Matty Zagar for the form he showed at the end of the season to get into that top 8, because he was miles behind Vakulik at one point. Yeah. Vakulik sort of consistently kept scoring, not high points, but I'm willing to bet there was no 0s or 1s or 2s in there in a Grand Prix. He was still getting his 5s and 6s and 8s.
Vakulik?
Yeah.
Round 5, Denmark, 1 point.
Thanks for that, Scott. But, as I say, what I was aiming at there was, Zagar went on that tear where he won 2 Grand Prix back to back, was double figures and a couple others. So Vakulik, he didn't do badly. 9th place pretty much always guarantees you a wild card. And yeah, we'll see what he can do if he can kick on next season. And I don't think there's any complaints. I don't think there's anyone better that isn't in because of Vakulik.
Just before we speak to Greg, we've already spoke up Everson. The other 3 that I mentioned are out of GPs, Peter Pawlicki, Lindback, Peter Kilderman. Is there any way back, of course, for Antonio Lindback? He's had a few chances at the Grand Prix, and in the future, would you expect to see both both Peters basically back in the Grand Prix series?
Again, it's a tough one. If particularly one back, if he could show any kind of consistency, it would be unbelievable. Because on his day, I remember seeing him romp to victory at Cardiff last year. The World Cup this year, he was on fire. And when that thing clicks, there's no one faster, I believe, in the world than Antonio Lundback. But for whatever reasons, it doesn't click often enough for him consistently to be there. He's had wildcards in the past. He's qualified. And, would it surprise me if we were sitting here next year talking up a Grand Prix preview for the year after and he's went out and romped the GP qualifiers and won the GP Challenge? Mm-hmm. It really wouldn't surprise me at all. I think he's an exciting rider. He's a capable rider. He's fantastic. But he's had his chances. He didn't do it this year. My only slight surprise maybe was that there's only, with Freddie finishing the top 8, was that I thought they'd maybe look at another Swede. They've got at least one round in Sweden, if not 2, depending on where the European Grand Prix and stuff is, I believe there's still a Nordic Grand Prix. So I thought, same with the Danes actually, with it only being Nicky, so I thought, okay, and that maybe goes right into Kilderman, would one of these guys have got one, just so that there was 2 Swedes, 2 Danes, because I know that's something that has been a consideration in the past. But all in all, well, I'll miss Lundback out of the series, because I say on his day, there's no one more exciting to watch than Antonio Lundback. It's up to him to earn his way back. Same with Kilderman. He was in there as an injury replacement, so he didn't qualify on merit this year. Did he do enough for me to show that he deserved a wild card, particularly with Iverson not getting one? Probably not. I mean, for me, Kilderman is probably third of the Danes just now.
Okay. We're going to speak up the GP Challenge qualifiers in a bit, but first of all, we're going to catch up with 4 times World Champion Greg Hancock. Greg, welcome to the Talk Speedway studio with myself and Graham. I guess there's only one place to start. How's your health been? How are you getting on now?
Oh, hey, thanks first of all, thanks for having me on the show too. It's always a pleasure, man. Health-wise, I'm doing good, except for the flu season hitting our whole family here at the moment, but that's part of life. So we're dealing with it. And as far as my shoulder injury goes, things are progressing really well. I had the operation almost 6 weeks ago now, and things are going really, really smooth. I'm stronger than I should say recovering quicker and stronger than I expected and was told. So it's good. I prepared for the worst, and I'm getting more out of it than I thought. So I still have about 2 months of serious rehab going with it before I can consider riding again, but it's worth the wait.
So, Greg, obviously didn't go the way you wanted. We're missing out. But what were your thoughts on the rest of the 2017 GP series? Was it one you watched closely?
Oh, it was a nightmare in one way. Things were just, for me, were just starting to pick up. I was gaining momentum after I can't say a rough start, but definitely not a normal start for me, and was really struggling to get my equipment working together with my riding, and it was hard. I was digging deep and trying to make different changes, but things weren't working. So as it turned out, we ended up having to make major changes with our equipment and with engines and different things to try to find a way forward. By doing that, I started to find the speed and the pace and just got it rolling when I had the accident with my shoulder.
Greg, obviously you watched on as Jason Doyle got to the top of the world. Do you think that he was a deserving champion in the end?
Exactly. I mean, you've seen his form has been immense the last couple of years, and last year in particular, he was definitely a man on a mission and showing his determination to win the world championship before he had his injury. So I think that was a hefty hit that he took, but the way he came back from it this year, he came back stronger, faster, and even in more secure probably, or not making the mistakes and not putting himself in the positions that he did before. And it definitely proves to be the answer when he clinched the victory with not with ease, but with convincing ways.
And now, Greg, if you've been confirmed as a wild card for next season, are you looking forward to taking that challenge back on again?
I work hard every year to to be in the World Championship, and I only want to be in it if I earn my spot. So this year, I've always said if I got a wild card, I wouldn't. If I had to be given a spot, I wouldn't want to take it because I'd feel like I didn't earn it. And I've kind of had to bite the bullet this year because an injury it basically cost me the chance of earning my spot. And it still feels strange, but I'll take it. I have to just grit my teeth and go with it because it's, I needed that to have a second shot at it again. But all the years that I done the Grand Prix, I never had to take a wild card, which makes me feel good that I've earned my position and never had to be given anything.
Greg is a man who's barely missed a Grand Prix throughout his career. Did watching the rest of the Grand Prix series this season give you a wee bit more re-energise you for 2018?
For sure. I get look. I have a lot of time to sit back and watch and see the sport from the outside and the other side of the fence, and from the television, watch all the Grand Prix races, watch the way the riders do their training, how they approach the race, and looking at their faces and their body language and everything. And you don't often get the chance to really do that. So for me, as much as I hated it, I didn't want to go to the races. I didn't want to watch the races on TV. I found later on that it was probably one of the most amusing and educational things that I could do under the circumstances. I had to take advantage of it. And I believe that I learned a thing or three by doing it. So I look for all the positives constantly, and doing it this way, I saw different ways that guys ride. I saw how they approach the race, how they approach corner entries, from start to the middle of the first corner and exiting the corners, things like that. So it was really quite an education at the same time. So I made the most out of it.
Talk Speedway. Talk Speedway.
It's good to hear for a re-energised Greg Hancock. Graham, we're going to hear from him a wee bit more later on in the podcast with a new innovation for the 2018 season. We hope to see you up and going, so hang on for that nearer the end of the podcast. But Graham, guys that will be re-energised themselves, perhaps not re-energised, energised for going into the 2018 season, will be Britain's Craig Cook, who we'll talk about in a wee second, alongside Shamak Pavlitsky and Artem Laguta. Of course, I'm really looking forward to seeing him in the Grand Prix. A second Russian in there adds a bit of spice to matters, Graham. But of course, our very own Craig Cook has made it in there on the back of Patrick Dudek finishing second in the world. We've got to be delighted for Cookie. He had a tremendous season at Bellevue. Perhaps didn't end the way he wanted. Obviously, we've seen in recent weeks he's had some personal problems with depression and stuff, and I hope that he recovers for that well and kind of sees people over the winter that's going to help him with that sort of thing going into the 2018 Grand Prix season. Of course, this week we also seen that he signed for Rybnik in Poland as well, which I think will do him the world of good. It's a great club down there. Graham, thoughts on Craig Cook being involved in the Grand Prix series next year?
I'm delighted for Cookie. For me, it's great. He's put the effort in, the work that he puts into Speedway. I don't think a lot of people realise unless they're around about him. Workington fans, Bellevue fans, Edinburgh fans will all be able to attest to the commitment and the level of perfectionism that he strives to. Sometimes to his detriment, actually, when it doesn't go for him. But for me, he went out there. Did anyone really think, I'm maybe speaking for myself, but did many people, I'll rephrase that then, really think that he would be able to go win 2 GP qualifying rounds, go to Russia, a track he's never seen before in his life, borrow some machinery off the Russian track, and then go out there and record a 4th in that field? It's outstanding. For me, because of that, he's in there on merit. Top 3, you say, in the GP Challenge qualifies, but Dudek did the job for him. But, he didn't sit there and wait on a wild card because of commercial reasons or because of nationality reasons or anything like that. So I wish that, Cookie all the best going into this year. I think it's great. It's good for British Speedway to have 2 Brits back on the world scene. For Craig, for the effort and the level of commitment he's put in. And while I'm not going to say he's at the same level as Jason Doyle, obviously, because Jason Doyle's world champion, but their careers mirror each other a little bit in that they're both late developers. Craig didn't start his Speedway career till he was in his early 20s, so there's almost probably 10 years he's given up on most people before he gets to the start line. So although he's now into his early 30s, from a Speedway career point of view, he's actually probably reasonably young into it. And I really hope he goes out there and surprises a few people. I've seen some knockers and a few people saying he's going to be cannon fodder. Hey, everyone said that about Ty Woffenden when he got back in at 500 to win the World Championship. And I'm not saying Craig's going to win the World Championship, but I'd just love it if he made a couple of semis, a couple of finals, got a podium one, something like that, just for him to hang that hat on, and just a reward for all the work that he's put in.
I'm hoping he has a great year in there, but he's up against some tough opposition when you look down the list, especially you look with the other guys that have qualified through the challenge as well. I mean, Shamak, he's a rider that's probably been on the verge of GP qualifications for a few years now. British Speedway fans will be familiar with him for his stint at Poole and Coventry previously to that as well. What are you expecting from him, Graham?
Again, you can never discount any of the polls that go into this. They have just an absolute conveyor belt of talent. They're used to the big, fast, international style tracks. They excel on these kind of tracks. There's three, maybe four of the rounds are in Poland, which always helps. And again, he's one. I don't follow a huge amount of Polish Speedway, I will be honest. I've watched a few of the highlights this year on Premier Sports, but British Speedway is my bread and butter. But again, would I be surprised? I don't see a Dudek or a Smarslick in him. He's been around maybe a little bit longer than those guys have now. I don't think he'll be in there, challenging for every final, podiums every Grand Prix, podium at the end of the year in the World Championship. But would I be surprised if he finished 6th or 7th at the end of the season? A couple of finals in sort of the bigger Polish tracks, semi-finals here and there. Not at all. He's not one that's going to be in making up the numbers, that's for sure.
Well, Shamak, he's performed very well on the European Championship. Showed a lot of consistency there as well. I mean, that was probably a real marker really for individual Speedway, isn't it, with the European kind of stuff. And again, looking at Artem Laguta, he is a rider I'm really looking forward to seeing in the Grand Prix series. He's a rider I think that really could be in the mix. I think he's at that level from watching kind of Polish Speedway, Swedish Speedway and Premier Sports obviously. Of course, World Cups, European Championship Speedway, seen him in the flesh in European Championship Speedway. He's a hard rider, and I think he is a rider that I think could put the cat amongst the pigeons.
Yeah, definitely. He's probably a rider that's been held back a little bit on the world stage because of all the variances and inconsistencies that comes with the Russian Federation. Over the last 5 years, if they'd have taken that World Cup seriously, I actually believe they would have a gold medal in there somewhere when you look at a team that would be based on Emil and the two Laguta brothers. But that all seems to be behind him now. He seems to have taken that next step. And some of his performances, particularly in the World Cup, as you mentioned, and in that European Championship were outstanding in a field not too dissimilar to what he'll be up against in the Grand Prix and tracks that he's used to riding, barring a few of the man-made ones. He'll be used to riding all the Swedish league tracks, all the Polish league tracks. I've ridden in big meetings in places like Prague and things like that. So he's one. I mean, I'd be willing to bet he'll be in the top 8 next season. I don't think I've got any concerns in saying he will be in that top 8 come the end of the season.
I'd like to, once we start previewing the start of the Grand Prix season, I'd like to get Griff's thoughts on that as well, because I know Griff's a big supporter of the Grand Prix, goes to a lot of Grand Prix abroad as well, and I must admit, I think he'll be one that would agree with you on Laguta. I've been in my research for this, Graham, I was looking to see the kind of calendar for next year. I don't know if it's been kind of spoke about previously, but with Emil and Artem now in the Grand Prix series, obviously the GP Challenge in Russia last year, is it perhaps time to kind of add a Russian track to the calendar?
I'd like to see that. I know just from Twitter and various social media, I don't think there was anyone who had a bad word to say about the setup at Togliatti for the GP Challenge. It also holds, or certainly has in the past, held one of the rounds of the European Championship. Yep. And it looks, this, again, maybe slightly more than 5 years now, I guess, a lot of money seemed to appear in Russian Speedway, and it looked like it was going to be the place. You had Nicky Pedersen going and riding in the Russian league when he was in the top 3 in the world and things like that. And, for whatever reason, it maybe didn't quite kick on. But you look at some of these youngsters they've got, it's exciting. So I'd like to see some of them on the world stage as a wild card. Russia's we've got the World Cup coming up. They've had the Winter Olympics recently. So there's maybe people in the rest of Europe view Russia as a little bit, outside, because every time we turn on the news, we're seeing stuff. But yeah, from a sporting point of view, Russia is a hotbed. And if you're looking for a market to expand the GP series and somewhere where it's not already, you'd probably say Russia and America, we've spoken to Greg there, are the 2 big markets that the GP series aren't in.
Yeah. I like you say, they're huge sporting markets that probably we should be looking at. The thing with America is that they don't have a track set up that would be of a Grand Prix standard size, whatever you want to talk about. But Russia has got all the set up there. I mean, you mentioned where the Grand Prix Challenge was. That stadium is more than set up for Grand Prix Speedway. It's a fantastic facility, and as you say, the riders raved about it last year. What we're going to do now is we're going to go back to Greg, who of course has announced in the last couple of weeks on his own podcast, which is at Real45 on Twitter. If you want to check out the information on Greg's podcast, of course he's talking through stories, his career, his upbringing, and it's been a very fascinating listen so far. We'll speak to Greg about that in one of our podcasts that we're going to release in the next couple of weeks. But for now, we're going to keep on the GP theme with Greg, and we're going to speak to him about his innovation for next year's competition.
Talk Speedway. Talk Speedway.
Greg, we know you've got your own podcast going just now as well. We hope that's going well. Of course, if anybody wants to listen to that, it's Real 45. But you announced on that perhaps a new innovation ahead of the 2018 season. Of course, I think it would be Team Hancock. What would be the thinking behind that?
Well, at the moment, this is something that's, it's been done before, and I've done one myself, 2 actually, I've been involved in over the years, and with Billy Hamill, and then again with Scott Nichols for a short period. So it's nothing new, but I think it's overdue. The teams that we had in the past were probably a little bit too early for the times with the way the series was and the way things were going. But now I feel like the Grand Prix could use something like this, and just to give it another refresh, maybe something new, something that will give back to our sponsors, to the fans, and raise the profile at the same time. There's a lot of we get a lot of extra support through the people we work with, and Monster is one of the key ones who are quick to jump on and want to be a part of things that sound motivating and inspiring to them, and they love this idea. And Joe Parsons has been really firmly behind me, giving me all sorts of ideas of what he thinks he would like to see. So it's up to me to put it together. I've got ideas for putting it together with certain riders. We haven't confirmed riders we'll have in the team just yet, but we've got things on the go. And I hope that it works out good, but it will, because that's the way we want it to be, and we have to make it a success. So watch this space, and if everything works out the way we hope for, we'll have a really cool team starting the Grand Prix season next year, and try to set the pace and just to put a new platform in the world of speedway racing.
And obviously, you mentioned Joe Parsons there and Monster. It's one thing. How difficult has it been to put a speedway team or stuff like that together? When you do have guys riding under different sponsorship banners.
Well, it can be really hard, A lot of us are friends and things like that, and when you talk about getting together as a team, it's not that easy, really, because we're competitors trying to operate under the same banner. But the idea is that we all want to win, right? So if we can together be successful, we help the team, we help the sponsors, and by doing that, we have access to much more that we can do for ourselves and try to be bigger and better and faster and more presentable and more prominent on the scene. And that's what we're going to do. I want to be able to share, depending on the riders we work with, and we want to be able to share a little bit of our experience with somebody a little bit younger and that's looking for the help. And at the same point, I want to be partnered with someone who's at my level too that I can and basically bounce off of. Probably get beat here and there, and I hope to be beating that person at the same time. But in return, we all want to win, right? So if I win and the other one is second, that's okay, and vice versa, as long as the team wins at the same time. So I've got to put I got to put two hats on or sit on two chairs. However, it's all about winning, and that's what I'm going for.
Greg, we've seen through the pairs competition how well the sponsorship teams have worked in there. Is that something that you looked at ahead of coming up with this idea?
Well, OneSport has been really clever with that, the way they've evolved that from the best pairs to the team pairs like that. I think it's really, really cool what they've done, and the things that have been done in the sport in the past, they've kind of opened the eyes and created another type of marketing. And for sure, I'm looking at it going, I like that. And then I've been, I go to a lot of other events. I go to MotoGP, I go to MXGP, I go to Supercross, then the drag races, and more recently in Rallycross. And I get so inspired by what I see. And it wouldn't take a lot to give back and give the people a little bit more to see, to let them come in and check out what you're doing and give them more value for money. I think that the public is owed that. They come every year and they do the same thing, and I get to see the same thing. So now it's time to give them a little bit more value for money, and that's kind of the idea. Even the sponsors, I think when you can offer them more at the venue and show them what you can do to involve them and have them to be a part of the team rather than just sitting in the grandstands and watching, is a much bigger carrot, and it's a win-win for everybody.
Talk Speedway. Talk Speedway.
Huge thank you to Greg Hancock for sparing us some time ahead of our opening podcast in new regime, Graham. It's been a good start talking about the Grand Prix. I've really enjoyed it. Don't forget, coming up this week is a feature cast, we're going to call it, where we speak to Team GB fitness coach Paul Suggett. A behind-the-scenes look at the riders' fitness. It's absolutely fascinating. I urge anybody who would maybe think about, I don't really fancy that one. Trust me, this is a fascinating listen. He was absolutely fantastic. A really good speaker. Some really funny stories as well. So listen out for that one later on this week, Thursday. We're going to be releasing that one with Paul, and of course I'll be co-hosting with Griff on that one. Don't forget, you can follow us on social media at Talk Speedway on Twitter, and on Facebook it's Talk Speedway Podcast if you search for that, and of course the website is talkspeedway.co.uk. Graham, all that's left for us is to say thanks for downloading or listening, and we'll see you next time. Good night.
Bye for now.